Dan Snyder, obviously, the tip of my brain because they have the sale of their team it's not completed, right? But they have agreed to terms or agreed to something with Josh Harris's ownership group, right?
Yeah, so it's basically a done deal now. And I can't believe that we're actually at the day where the cockroach who is Dan Snyder is out of the NFL, because there was a while where I thought, there's no way they're getting rid of this guy.
And he's getting out and selling for reportedly over $6 billion.
I was going to say, it's unbelievable how, the guy can be just, reviled and hated by everyone. And this is like a punishment. It's like, hey, you're losing your NFL team, but we will give you $6 billion so that you can kind of just go away forever.
Does he get to keep the varsity commander's jacket?
I mean, I would imagine he probably borrowed it from the pro shop, and he probably gave it back because he's like, hey, this is still good. You can sell it. It's all good. Don't worry about it. You don't even have to wash it.
That probably would make a lot of sense. I do believe they made the players buy them, so they didn't even get them for free. So
it's actually funny you say that. The Commanders actually sent Pat one.
Did they?
It was one out of 500.
One of those boxes.
Oh,
remember
sweet.
Those cool
because this is what Carson Wentz was wearing in this promo shot when he signed with the team. Remember? I think you loved that picture.
Oh, yeah.
Big news I'm sure that you've been talking about and reporting on for months and months. So the Washington Commanders have agreed, in principle, on terms of a sale. What does that mean? When can this thing be finalized? And is there any question that this isn't going to go through when the owners vote on it?
Okay, so second part first. It does not seem to be a question that this is going to go through. It's now a matter of when and not if. So, look, I mean, it's amazing when these things happen, and this has been not months, but really years since Commanders fans have waited for Dan Snyder to be out, waited for a new owner, hoped for a new owner. Is it actually going to happen? It's been headed in this direction for a while, but the Friday afternoon news that we got was no Friday news dump. I mean, that was, I think, the moment that Commanders fans have been waiting for since before they were the Commanders, since they were that other team with that other name that wasn't good.
Football team?
That was a good name.
That was great.
The best name.
You really think so?
Yeah. I mean, Washington Wild Hogs will have something to say about it.
You think they change it, Ian? You think the new owner is going to change it eventually?
I asked that to people connected to the new owner, and basically the response was that's not something that's on the table. That's not something that we have discussed. And to me, it's like all names are kind of whatever. It's like if you use it enough, they start to sound like what the name should be. So I imagine eventually Commanders will feel normal, just like eventually the Washington football team felt normal. But by the way, it is not agreement in principle. It is a signed contract.
Oh, okay.
So it's more than that. It's basically what this is Dan Snyder and Josh Harris and his partners have a firm exclusive deal to sell the Commanders to Josh Harris and his people, which include Mitch Rails. It includes, smaller limited partners like Magic Johnson. It's actually like a pretty, sort of robust group. But the next step is they present it to the NFL Finance Committee. The Finance Committee okays it, and there's a lot here, and it's the biggest deal they've ever done, team transaction-wise.
How much?
$6.05 billion.
It's a lot. Okay.
A lot.
It's a lot of money.
And it's amazing. You talk about, investments. The numbers are only going up.
Do you know how it works, Ian? I know when people a lot of times succession, different things, certain things are stock options. How does this money work? Do you have any idea how the cash flows or how it is?
I am not smart enough to answer that like a real finance person, although I am watching Succession.
Bam.
So I'm learning about their deal. We'll see which way that goes. Is obviously, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but last week's episode was, anyway, it was a lot.
Oh, yeah.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. I feel like we've reached the point now where you basically can't talk about any show on the internet ever because someone's going to be like, dude, I'm saving that to binge.
You certainly can't do it the day after the episode premieres. But
no. At least a 24-hour window, but I would argue for more because what we like to do is save the shows until we have all of them and then watch all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
That's the best way to do it.
No question.
Yeah. But no, so I imagine there is a, it's all sort of fully guaranteed. So there is a significant, I believe, a upfront portion, a cash portion. I just don't know enough to say how much that is, but it's not like, there really isn't a question of is the money going to be there? I mean, these are very rich people. These are, people in Josh Harris who have owned a couple teams. They own the Sixers, own the Devils. I mean, this basically is at the point now where it's happening. I just thought initially that it was going to happen next week at the May meeting, but that sounds a little too ambitious. So it probably seems like What'll happen this time is what happened when the Broncos were sold, which is they'll schedule like a special league meeting, maybe sometime around training camp or something like that, have the owners vote and finalize all of this.
Tone Diggs has a follow-up.
Yeah, Ian, we were just talking about it. Do you know, like, when owners, when they are buying NFL teams, like, do they normally come in and clean house? Like, does the team president, like, do they normally get let go? Like, how does that work when new owners buy, or do they normally just keep on and then the owner is replaced?
So I would say, from what I would expect of the Commanders, and this is sort of what's happened in a lot of different places, you don't come in and clean house. You come in and evaluate for like a year. So I would say for the Commanders, what's probably going to happen is Josh Harris and his people will come in. They will spend a year, a season and a little bit, and, you know, a season and an off season, whatever it is, kind of just looking around and saying, like, where do we stand? And I think from the football side, that's pretty clear. You know, if the football team is really good, if Sam Howell is what the Commanders think, if Eric Bieniemy comes in and you know, really, really helps as an offensive coordinator, I mean, if they're in a good place, then I would imagine they'll keep being in a good place. If not, then, you know, you might see a new owner come in and make some changes. I would say a lot of times management-wise is probably, you know, I don't know if it's going to be immediate, but he's run teams before. We just talked about it, you know, Sixers and Devils. Certainly has a way he likes to do things. A lot of times the people who are in management under the old owner, in this case Dan Snyder, either see the writing on the wall or are eventually replaced. You know, I believe that everyone has a shot to keep doing what they're doing. But sure, there's going to be some turnover in management, no doubt about it.